Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up this screen here. Clemson versus the Vols. Keys to victory. We're going to go into what the Vols are going to have to do to win this game. So let's get right into that. All right, now this is an important game. I know it's a bowl game that isn't playoff related, but it's still very important. We could finish in the top 5 for the first time since, I don't know, 2000, 2002 or something. And on top of that, this is going to be a showcase for next year, 2023, because we're going to have Joe Milton as starting quarterback, and I expect him to most likely be the starting quarterback in 2023. So this is a very important game for him. It's also a big game in that Clemson's a national power. They've won 2 national titles in the last 10 years. They've been in the playoff a lot, and we need to win this game. When you get a chance to match up against one of the big dogs, you want to win. Now, things have changed dramatically since earlier in the year. If we were playing Clemson in Week 8 with Hendon Hooker as our starting quarterback, and they've got the ukulele guy, we win this game 2 touchdowns. I'm not worried a bit about it. I think we beat them no problem. But I think they've improved their quarterback situation quite a bit with Klubnik. And, you know, we've got Joe Milton now. And look, there are very few Hendon Hookers out there, okay? That's just the reality. So, you know, it's going to be up to how Joe plays and how Klubnik plays as to who wins this game. Now, it's going to be very important that Joe play a real solid game tonight. And he's going to have to do a couple of different things. Not only is he going to have to complete a good percentage of his passes, but he's going to need to run the ball because Clemson has a very good defense. And if they realize that he's not going to run and he's going to hand off every time, they're going to focus on the running backs, and we're not going to have a very good running game. And if we do not have a good running game, we will not win this game. There's no way. We have to run first. That's just the way it is. I know everybody thinks we're a passing team. We are not. We're a running team first that passes a lot as well. So when he's doing that RPO, he's going to probably have to keep the ball a third of the time. If he does not keep those edge guys on Clemson honest and they can focus on that running back, they're going to stuff them. They're just going to stuff them on a regular basis, and we're going to be under 100 yards rushing, and we don't win games. You know, if we don't run for, 150, 200 yards, we don't win those games. So he's going to have to keep them honest, and that's difficult because, our backup quarterback situation is not good. But Joe is 245 pounds, 6'5", and he's as big as anybody they've got. So if he just plays smart, goes down when he needs to, runs out of bounds, does things like that, I think he'll be okay, but he's going to have to run the ball, and I think he needs about 70 yards in rushing for us to win this game. He's going to have to be a running problem for them, and that will keep them from pinning their ears back and trying to sack him as well. And I can tell you he's going to have somebody besides the entire Vol Nation rooting for him. Hendon Hooker's going to be rooting for him harder than anybody because I'm telling you, he wants Joe Milton to play well so bad he can't stand it because Joe has been such a good dude to him. They've really, they're best buddies. And I think Joe has been tremendously supportive of Hendon Hooker. And I think Hendon's trying to pay him back because as far as I'm concerned, I think after they met, they decided to go practice karate in the garage.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yup.
Yep, they're best buds, and I think that's cool. You don't see that, especially with competing quarterbacks. Normally, it's not like that. So that's another reason to root for Joe. The other thing they're going to need to do is use Squirrel White. Squirrel's going to have to take the top off the defense and take up a cornerback and a safety on a regular basis and try to open up the middle of the field to a Princeton Fant so he can catch the ball and run, to a Brew McCoy, who I think is going to be very key in this game, a Ramel Keaton, players like that, maybe a running back out of the backfield, and to really spread that defense as much as possible because we do not have Hyatt in this game. And Hyatt was the guy that just absolutely freaked out every defense. And when he took off at that 4.3 speed and got behind him, I mean, it was total panic. And he opened up the field for us. We're already spread out like crazy anyway, which drives defensive coordinators nuts. Then you got a 4-3 guy take off, and you're like, oh, my gosh, you couldn't be more spread out. And that opens up the center of the defense. Well, that's what Squirrel's going to have to do tonight. And for them to respect that, they're going to need to connect. Joe and Squirrel will need to connect at least twice, I would think. And hopefully 1 or 2 of those will be touchdowns. But that needs to happen. And then I think all the rest of the offense can take off. Now, here's the guy that's going to be the problem for the Vols. This is Cade Klubnik, and he is a 5-star, #1 rated quarterback last year in his class, and he pretty much exploded against North Carolina. He played a fantastic game, 20 of 24, almost 300 yards, ran the ball 7 times for like 35 yards for a touchdown on top of that, and he is a real problem. they're going to have to focus on him even more than Will Shipley. And Will Shipley's a fine player and a good running back. But if you look at the stats against North Carolina, and I think Clemson's going to treat this game similar to how they did North Carolina, because our defense in the secondary is very similar to North Carolina's. It's porous. Now, our defensive line is better than North Carolina's, but our secondary is not. So I think they're going to use Klubnik to, try to win this game. And if you sit here and you look at the numbers, Cade had 20 of 24, 279, a touchdown. And then he was the leading rusher too. So he had over 300 yards himself in that game, and they scored 39 points, and they kept North Carolina to 10. And North Carolina's got a fine offense. But look, when your quarterback plays well, that inspires the rest of the team. And that's what happened. They've been struggling all year with a much more talented team because their quarterback play's been marginal. It hasn't been horrible like it was in the South Carolina game, but it's been very marginal. Well, when you go 20 of 24, that changes the equation. Now, look, I'm not saying Cade Klubnik's the next Tank Murdoch.
This guy's going to be the new Tank Murdoch.
I mean, there's only one Tank Murdoch. You need to, and for those of you that get that, you're laughing your rear end off, but a lot of you don't, and that's okay. You're not old enough. Man, that was back when movies were funny and good. When's the last time there was a good movie? Look, I'm not saying movies and music might have been better in the 70s, 80s, 90s in the past. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, yeah, it was a lot better. I haven't seen a good movie in years. All right, I'm getting lost in nostalgia here for a minute. Let's get back to the important stuff. Well, that's all important. Let's get back to the game. This dude, Will Shipley, can also be a problem, but if you look in the North Carolina game, he only ran the ball about 7 times for like 30 yards, so he wasn't a big factor. It was more about Cade. Cade was the problem. So I know y'all are thinking, well, then how do you stop the guy if he's supposedly this good? And I think he is this good. You're going to have to confuse him. You're going to have to put a lot of pressure on him, and then when you're not putting a lot of pressure on him, you're going to have to show it and then pull back. And I would try to confuse him as much as possible. I would show him tons of blitz packages, and sometimes I'd come after him, and sometimes I'd back off. I would try to put as much pressure as humanly possible on him. And when I do go after him, you better get him or cause him to make a mistake, because he will throw an interception if you put enough pressure on him. But if you go after him and don't get him, or he slides by you, he's going to burn you pretty good because he's a good runner. But that's a risk that I think the Vols need to take, because I think they're going to score 35 points without too much trouble against our defense with a good quality quarterback. That's pretty typical. I mean, Clemson's got a lot of good players, and we're going to need to score in the 40s to win this game. And I think that's certainly possible if Joe plays a good game. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He needs to be in the mid-60s as far as percentage completion rate. He doesn't have to throw 70, 80%, but he needs to be over 60%. He needs to throw for at least 250 yards, run for at least 70 yards. I mean, he's a key to our offense tonight. If he plays well, I think we win. But if he doesn't, I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it here, Lloyd. She must be unlisted.
All right, folks, and I believe that's the keys to the victory tonight is really we need Joe to play well. We need him to run the ball a little bit. We need to spread that field with Squirrel so we can get the ball to Brew and Keaton and all the other guys, Princeton Fant, and get our running game going. I think that's super important. And if Joe runs well, I think our running game will work. And go after Cade. Going to have to slow that guy down and really confuse him. Now, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols. And if you haven't subscribed, it's right here on the left. Hit that button. YouTube will send you my videos a lot easier. You won't have to hunt for them. Just makes it easier. And right over here, YouTube puts a video that they think you'll like based on your viewing history, and that's what they do for a living, so they're probably pretty good at it. Anyway, I hope you did like the content, and go Vols tonight. I'm excited and fired up. I want to see how Joe plays, and this is a big game. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.